Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to our Women Together program. My name is Antoinette, and I'm the host for our Women Together session. It is wonderful to see everybody. I know we're all still coming in, and I'll just allow us to land. But if you'd like, you can share where you're coming from in the chat and just let us know what's coming up for you wherever you are, and I will read some of those out. So we've got Glencoe, north of Chicago, sunny New York, Reno, Irvington, New York. So you can keep feeling free to type that into the chat. And I'll just give a little background on Women Together. What we've been doing with Eileen Fisher is over the last few years, we have been coming together month after month, week after week, day after day, it feels like, but just really week after week over the pandemic to just connect in with each other. And we started this when we before the pandemic, when we were gathering in hybrid events. So there were many of us in person and there were many of us online. And I know that feels totally normal now for many of us, but it was novel at the time. And these gatherings, these Women Together Connect, were an invitation to do tiny practices together, to land some of what we had done in these larger events with some of our favorite teachers and some of Eileen's favorite teachers, inviting us to go deeper than the clothing, deeper than our external experiences, and to do that for an interior shift within ourselves and kind of transformation, but also to invite us to go out into our world and to see how we can have an impact on our communities, or how we already have an impact on our communities. So some of the communities present: Wisconsin, Long Island, Hartford, Ossining, New York, Winchester, Massachusetts, Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, suburban Philly, Detroit, Ohio, Wisconsin, New York, and Maine, Lake Oswego, Oregon. So there are many of us coming in from across the United States. Wonderful to be all together here and just be reconnecting with each other and just be landing together. There have been many of us from all different parts of the world. So a warm welcome to all. And as we arrive here, today's session is on having courage. So as we arrive here, we might just do a little moment of stillness just to land wherever we are. And if you'd like to, you can take a little look at maybe 4 boxes on Zoom. You can go to gallery and just take a look at 4 little boxes and see who's here, and just take a little look, and you can give a little wave, a little hello. It's just wonderful to connect. And what we invite you to do is also, as you land here, just to welcome someone else in. So maybe just taking a little look at those 4 boxes that you've chosen and just sending them a warm greeting, sending them a greeting from the heart, just arriving and letting them land here. They may not be able to see you or know that you're looking at them, but that we all see each other, that it becomes a group of us seeing one another and being in this circle together and being in this room together. So just being with that, the little hellos. So good as we start off this, for many of us, school year, or perhaps the Jewish New Year. September always feels like this kind of new beginning somehow. So a warm welcome to all as we land here in September and in our places. And what I'd like to invite us to do is just to land in a moment of stillness. So if you can get your feet flat on the ground, that's always comfortable for me, but whatever's comfortable for you, a sitting position. Just tuning into the breath, landing here. Perhaps lower your gaze or close your eyes. For this one, we'll just follow the breath inwards. Perhaps you can lower your shoulders away from your ears on an exhale. Feeling the connection to the seat that you may be on, to the floor, to earth. Feeling that sense of groundedness, a sense of connection. And feeling also the sense of connection to sky. So that space just above the top of the head. Letting the inhale and exhale be the conduit for the connection between earth and sky. Perhaps just putting a hand on the heart. Maybe doing a little thank you to yourself for showing up today. And for a moment, just tuning into what brought you here today. What brought you to this Women Together Connect? Let's connect on having courage. And when you're ready, you can type that into the chat if that's available for you. You can type it into the chat on Zoom or into the comment section on YouTube, and I will read a few out. So just what brought you here today, reconnecting with the screen and connecting to your intention. What brought you here today on having courage? Yeah, Susan says, I need some. That was it. Janet, I feel I need a dose of courage every day. The challenges we all face these days, from Kathleen. Marianne, my Tuesday authentic breath. Marilyn, moving forward with a decision that sometimes feels scary. Absolutely. Janet, definitely time to find courage. Too much of my life is guided by fear, says Lisa. Marsha, on a daily basis, life demands more and more courage. Marsha, yeah, I mean, it felt like we could be doing this courage one every week. Oh, I love this one. Marion said, Royal May said, paraphrasing, courage is not being without fear. It is moving ahead in spite of fear. Yeah. Patricia, welcome back. She says she's missed a few times, and has been losing courage recently. I've lost mine in this time of dominant fear, says Leah. Carly, practicing active listening in a space that appears to have a very specific demographic. With you, Carly, we are coming together to really have the courage to have these conversations wherever we're coming from. So thank you for being here. And the space is my weekly vitamin. Feeling confidence slipping away in the fall, need a bigger insight and discussion. Yep. Welcome back, everyone. Beautiful. Georgia O'Keefe said, I was afraid of everything, but I did it anyway. Wonderful. So we've had a few, here's some YouTube ones as well. Trying something new today with my nonprofit. Welcome, Kala. Deborah Martin, courage is the key to moving forward. Feeling the need for more courage, or at least a new way of looking at it, and reconnecting with my inner self, trying to find courage within to overcome my fears. Yeah. Oh, Francis, at this age, any other choice is a waste of time. Yeah. Beautiful. So I'll give a little chat, just a short discussion, because I do want to move us into to our conversations, because that really is just a wonderful place to find a connection with each other, and to have these conversations, to practice courage, to practice active listening, and to really listen to one another in the different places that we do come from in our different life experiences. Before we do that, we have a little clip from, we have some really great footage that we've started to go through from our various teachers who came into the Learning Lab. One of those teachers is Colleen Sedman-Yee, who with her partner Rodney Yee, brought the form of yoga that many of us know to across the United States, really spread it in this country. And when she did that, she and Eileen had an interesting connection early on. And I think Colleen was even a model for Eileen Fisher at one point, early on. And so there's just such an interesting intertwining of the two histories. And she gave some really interesting talks. And so we'll just play a tiny little clip because I thought it was just such a lovely way to share about vulnerability and courage. So we'll cue that up and then we'll do a little discussion and practice before we move into our dialogues.
Right, we end up in armor, right? Running around the world in this armor, pretending like we've got it all together. We're great. We meet somebody else and they've got their armor up too. So nothing happens. There's no human to human. Right? There's pretending. And it's time to strip the armor. And I feel like the women's movement in the world, which Eileen is so beautifully one of the headliners of, that's what's starting to happen. And it's so important to strip back the layers and be vulnerable, to be raw, to be naked, to be together, right? To not be alienated, to not feel lonely all of the time, to not feel unseen or misunderstood. And to me, that's what mindfulness is, right?
So just a little clip from Colleen reminds me about stripping away the armor and what does that really mean? And so I looked to some of my other teachers as well. And I have this thing with teachers, where I hear something, or even therapy, I hear something and I'm like, okay, so then how do I do it? How do I apply this? What does that mean? And so we'll do a little practice today because I find that, it's wonderful to hear these things, but unless I really feel it in my bones, it doesn't go in, and I don't have the ability to use that later. So this is a place where we can practice together, and I invite us into that. But I'll just share a little teaching from, it's actually from Jack Kornfield, but I think it's from his teacher, Aja, I believe, but I can find the name. But the basic idea is something that's quite, it's been spoken about a lot. The basic idea is that, when something difficult arises, how do we respond? And there are a number of responses to this. And most of the time we think it's two. I often think that there are two responses. So my response is either denial, like, no, it's not happening. We're not doing that. It's not happening at all. And whatever the difficult thing is, or the scary thing, or grief, or anything that we have to face, the first reaction, the first response often for many of us is denial. And it's just a kind of numbing, or, oh, we're not doing that. For me, it's just like, oh, I kind of have these blinders on when that happens. And then I think, well, the only other way to face this is by just kind of exploding out my emotions. Well, if I'm going to face it, I'm going to have courage. I'm just going to be angry and I'm just going to blah. And sometimes that's helpful, or I think it's helpful, but not necessarily helpful for everyone around me. And also actually not necessarily the most helpful in any given situation. It may not be the place where the gold is, the place where the most juice is in that difficulty. And so what Jack Kornfield talks about is there's the idea of this, he said that there's, it's the courage of the heart. And I love that. And I love how that relates to what Colleen said in this stripping away the armor. Because for me, the armor, those are two defenses. I either go into denial, or I go into anger, or this raw emotion. And both of those are kind of reactive response. They're not necessarily attuning into the deeper place of the heart. And so Jack talks about this maturity that happens in how we respond to situations, that is the courage of the heart. And he describes a poison tree and 3 different responses. And the first person goes up to the poison tree and says, it's a poison tree, we have to cut it down. Just make it go away. And the second person says, this poison tree is part of earth. It's part of all of us. I'm going to have compassion for the tree. Let's make sure no one else gets hurt by the tree. We can't cut it down, but we'll put a fence around it so that we don't have to deal with it. And the third person walks by the tree and says, oh, it's a poison tree. This is exactly what I've been looking for. How can I take some of this tree and turn it into medicine and cures diseases with it? And that may not be, that may not fit for all of us. I don't necessarily know how to make medicine out of a poison tree, but the metaphor is, I think, something that rings true for me and maybe for some of you as well, in that when we are faced with these obstacles and faced with a difficult situation, when we can see the gold in it, when we can see this kind of beauty in that moment, that we can come from a place, Patricia just said, that it's powerful, it's creative and positive. And if we come at it from that place of positivity or creativity or possibility, it's not just about a kind of switching of the brain, it's really tuning into a deeper place. And I find that it's both the place around the heart and it's also the place around the gut for me. So really deep, just below my belly button. I know I've talked about that a lot in here. But that's, those are the kind of just an invitation for us to consider when we move into any kind of courage practice, to really just tune in to beyond this kind of reactive response and where we can actually make a choice. So I'd like to invite us into a little practice of meditation and then journaling. And so if you'd like, just find, oh, wow. Jane just said, just last week in Ulster County, I'm letting you find your journal, by the way. Journal and pen is what you're looking for. And I'll just tell you what Jane said in here. She said, just last week in Ulster County, a woman was picking poisonous berries to make a balm for arthritis relief. So somebody knows how to do it. I'm glad. I find there's a grass that I can use for mosquito repellent. So we all have maybe some ways to do this, but some are better than others at it. So I hope you found your journal by now. And I'd like to invite you to just tune in to a place of your inner space. So if you'd like to connect again, your feet to the floor, if you'd like to lower your gaze, close your eyes, whatever is in your practice. And just tune into the breath again. Feeling again the rootedness to the floor. Connection to the space around you. And tune into the space around the heart. The feelings and the sensations that may be there. Just knowing that any situation that comes up, when we can really be with it, we can meet this with the courage of our heart. And then perhaps think of a difficulty that you've had to face. Perhaps a moment that's happened in the past, maybe not a difficulty that you're dealing with now. And just tune into what the feelings were that came up with that difficulty. And just noticing, what was your response to that difficulty? Did you turn away from it? Did you turn toward it? Were you able to face it with this courage of the heart? Just noticing what comes up. Was there gold in the situation? Was there something that you could take those poisonous berries and make the arthritis relief? Just noticing what was there. And then perhaps turning to a difficulty or a moment that you've had recently or that you're having, and just being with that experience. Maybe something, it's okay if it's unresolved, but just noticing what's there for you. How have you been reacting to that situation? Perhaps something that's been making you uncomfortable, but you haven't been dealing with it. And just noticing the feeling or sensation. Perhaps there's a feeling in the body that's rising now as you just even think about it. Just being with that, just asking yourself, how might I apply loving awareness, the kind of naked awareness that Colleen spoke about, letting down the armor, feeling into the courage of the heart. Just being with that. What might you see as the gold or the learning in this current situation? When you're ready, you can pick up your journal, your pen, just tune your attention to the page. And just first, you can jot down any notes that you have for yourself. And perhaps write down what your initial response is, what your pattern response, whether it's, someone talked about the fight, flight, some people have a freezing response. But any kind of difficult situation, we often have one of those responses first. You can just write that down. And if you'd like to also write down the feeling, for me, there's a tightness in my chest or my heart gets a little faster when I even think about a difficult situation. And then what would you need to let go of? So as you're journaling, what would you need to let go of in order to allow this situation to move, or to have courage in this situation? What would you need to let go of? And then if you just have a learning that you could take out of that difficult situation, if you have some medicine from that poisonous tree, if you have something that you could tune into, that could be, we often talk about there's gold in the shadow parts. There's always we might try to keep something in the shadows, but there's often some beautiful gold that when we pull it back out, when we pull that moment back out, we can see this beautiful shininess of who we are, or the kind of what going into that vulnerable place allows us to be or do. And just being with that, what might the learning or the gold be? And then when you are, it's probably still fresh and there's a lot coming up, but what we'll do is turn to each other. Before we do that, I just want to say that these connection points, so we'll turn to each other in small breakouts in Zoom, and we'll keep doing these connects. So for those of you who are with us on YouTube, we'll keep doing these connects. But if you'd like to join our circles, we're going to start a circles practice where we will be with the same group. We'll start with a group and we'll be with that same group for 6 weeks. So we'll run that alongside our connects on Wednesday evenings, Eastern time. So we will send out information about that over the coming days or weeks. And we look forward for our YouTubers. We're going to go into our connect time now in our small breakout rooms in Zoom. But for those of you who are staying, we'll have our connects now. And for those of you who are coming back, we'll have connects throughout the rest of September. And in October, we will be running circles as well. So we look forward to seeing you then. I hope you continue with your journaling practice and find a way to have courage over the next few weeks and maybe in this coming week. And we'll see you the following Tuesday. And for those of us here on Zoom, we're going to turn to each other. The best part of our Women Together Connect is to be with what's been coming up. There's some conversation in the chat around surrendering and selfishness and what we need to let go of. So what I'd like to invite us into is really, 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 really dropping the story as we go into these connect groups. And just, I say this every time, but I can't stress it enough. We don't know what the other person in front of us has for breakfast. And this is not the moment to tell us what you had for breakfast, but really to just be. There are so many moments where you can talk about who you are and what you do and what's going on in your day to day. And this is the moment to actually just go deeper, to go beyond those external perceptions, or I had a banana or whatever it is. And really to just be with and have courage. This is the practice time. So I really invite you into that. And as Carly brought up, this really practicing active listening, really deepening our capacity to listen, not just to what the person in front of you is saying, but to what the person may be growing into. Francis just said, we're growing up. Thank you for the push. And I think we are all constantly growing and learning. That's what life is about, is a constant evolution of growth and learning and making meaning out of it. That shifts and changes for all of us, but that this is the time to get that practice in and to practice having courage and really deeply listening to each other. So I invite you to enjoy your time together, and we'll see you back here. We'll give 22 minutes, or actually, yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, 25 minutes. Is that good? I know people have been requesting more time. So here you have it, 25 minutes. We'll see you back in 25 minutes. Have fun.